And welcome everyone to Rock M Radio. This is a brand new episode of Dive Cuts. It's me by myself alone in this box. I don't have anybody with me. But coming up, we have a guest this week. We're going to talk to CJ Moore of The Athletic. If you are unfamiliar with CJ Moore, then you are probably not consuming all the college basketball news that you need to. He is one of the best college basketball writers available. He lives in the Kansas City area. He is a Kansas grad, so don't hold that against him. But he does know a lot about the Jayhawks, and we're going to talk about Kansas. We're going to talk about Missouri, and we're going to talk about the border war. So stick around, and we'll talk to CJ here in 1 minute. And I'd like to welcome to our podcast here a good friend. He's been on before, hanging out in Kansas City, representing the KU Jayhawks knowledge for the podcast today. It's our good friend CJ Moore. CJ, how are you?
Doing well. How about yourself, Sam?
I'm doing all right. Ready for the weather to break and get cooler again. We got a little spoiled there for a while. Now we're back to like summer weather. So I'm sitting up in my office. It's late afternoon. It's warm. But the good news is mid-September means we're only like 6 or 7 weeks away from actual college basketball sort of kicking up. My sort of thought with this, we've had you on before, and we have kind of done some Tiger talk. I want to basically kind of keep the focus here on the Tigers and the Jayhawks, since the rivalry is fully back. Football teams just played each other, basically like a little more than a week ago. That was exciting to kind of get back. The basketball teams have now been playing for several years. Missouri finally got back on the winning side of things against the Jayhawks. It's always tough to do against Bill Self. So let's just start general feelings. How are you feeling with the border war sort of being back in full effect these days?
Well, I like it being back. I hate conference realignment, and I think it's the worst part of conference realignment that, these two schools that have such a history together weren't playing for years, and I'm glad it's back. I don't think the games are quite as impactful and meaningful as they used to be because there's no like conference implications, but I think these fan bases still have a strong disdain for each other, and the winner feels really good about themselves when they win the game. So the Tigers are riding high right now because they got football and basketball the last two times they played, so they're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, so Kansas, things have been a little bumpy in Lawrence the last few years, which is really unusual for sort of like the Bill Self era. We sort of, Missouri fans can attest, for like, the first decade when he was taking over the program and basically winning the conference every year, to kind of do that for like 15, 16 years in a row. And then to basically run it to the last few years where things haven't quite been as dominant. You got Houston kind of coming in and playing really well. The expansion of the Big 12 has certainly changed some of the dynamics there. NIL has maybe flattened some things out. What do you think has been like the major sort of, key for like the Jayhawks sort of failing a little bit to sort of meet, their normal expectations?
I think it's two things. I think one, they've always had pros. They've always had NBA level guys at the top of their roster, and you look the last couple of years, they haven't had those. Now a couple of years ago they had the first of this bad little run here. They did have Kevin McCullough, and they did have who's my Aussie guy, Johnny Furphy.
Yeah, Furphy.
Both those guys made the league, but Furphy was very raw freshman year, and then McCullough got hurt that year and wasn't really able to finish. And if you talk to Bill Self about these last 2 years, he'll kind of give you the caveat of, well, we were on more like ourselves when Kevin was healthy that first year. So if you run that season back and Kevin's healthy for the whole year, maybe it's not quite as bad, but it's still not the vaunted Kansas teams that we're used to seeing. And so I think one, that not having those top NDA guys at the top of the roster being your best players, and then two, they've just they haven't done great identifying the right guys in the transfer portal. And, Missouri's last year, like the last couple of years of Missouri, you've seen how important it is that you got to get those right. You got to hit a pretty good percentage when it comes to the portal. And I think it's been kind of recruiting off the ranking lists maybe. And okay, this guy's high up. Let's just, let's hope it works. You bet on the talent. But I don't think they've been maybe the right guys for Self and his system. And then these last two teams were like, they were built for Hunter Dickinson, around Hunter Dickinson. And I just think he's not necessarily can't be your best player. And then they ended up building everything offensively around him, trying to hide him on defense. And they just couldn't play maybe the way Self has always wanted to play. And, obviously they had horrible spacing issues last year trying to play Dewan, KJ, and Hunter all together. So it was just kind of flawed roster builds. And I don't think Self's necessarily lost it from a coaching perspective, but from a roster building perspective, they've really not done a good job the last few years.
Well, and I think that's interesting to me because I think one of the things that I've always thought that Self did and his program did, better than a lot of other elite level schools, or just, like top level, top 25, top 30 level schools, was their player development. And you look at, and you can feel free to disagree with this take or expand on it, but you look at they just won a national championship in
with their own
22. Majority of that roster were all developmental guys. At least the guys they were relying on a night in and night out basis. Guys that were maybe a little bit under recruited. Like Baji, that was an NBA level talent. Brown. Sorry, I can never as even with his older
just
brother.
Imagine it's spelled BROWN. Just imagine it's spelled that.
Yeah, like Parker was on Missouri's roster. I still wanted to say Braun. But Christian, guys that were not heralded, and then I think what he would always do is he would, land like a Wiggins or a type of player like that, and then you're surrounded with these great developmental players, and then you would be able to kind of reach your heights through there. And I almost wonder like the program has gone through this swing where the FBI stuff came out and it very clearly hurt his recruiting at the top end.
But didn't.
Right. Well, and that's where
North Carolina.
I'm going is
North Carolina went through that too. It almost helped them in a way.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point I was going for is North Carolina did go through that. They had always struggled to land these top level players, but they were landing 40 through 90, guys like that. And next thing you know, those guys had a chance to grow and build together, and then they're contending for national championships. And then at the same time, this is all pivoting to where the portal and NIL is just opening things up in a new and completely different way. And I'm almost wondering if through that Self, again, great game day coach, great program coach, but he kind of lost his way a little bit as far as what he was really good at. And if that's true, if you think he's getting back to that, with some of the new rosters.
I do think that there has been, there was an impatience to let's get this going real quick again. And the transfer portal is that instant gratification. And I do think they maybe chased that to the detriment a little bit. Last year's a great example. They had, LeBaron Philon was a KU commitment. And basically they chose portal over holding on to him. And if you play that season back again, if you can have Philon, he would have been the best guard they had, right? He would have been the most talented guard they had. You look at last year's team, and there was nobody outside of KJ and Dewan were homegrown, and you had seniors, but you had nobody from the junior class. You had nobody from the sophomore class who were contributing in any kind of way. And I do think that the loss of Elmarco Jackson getting hurt last summer
Yeah.
hurt them. And so, like, he's back this year, and, like, that's got to be a guy that's your normal Kansas guy that's just way better than everybody anticipates, right? Like, develops the first couple of years, then takes off. They just haven't, I think you're right, they haven't had those guys around that can kind of be complementary players, and then when it's their time and their turn, all of a sudden they're NBA level players. Christian, Ochai, going back before that, Devontae Graham, Udoka. We could go on and on and on. So I do think you're right that they haven't had those guys in the program, and maybe chasing the instant gratification that the transfer portal brings has hurt them. And then you look at like a program like Purdue that's maybe not quite getting like the Kansas level recruits that the Bill was getting in his heyday, but Matt Painter is very locked in on like trusting his eye, finding guys that he thinks fits his program, developing them, and then when they get to junior and senior years, like they're really, really freaking good. Like what Purdue's got going on right now is kind of like what Kansas had forever, right?
Yeah.
And Purdue's one of those teams that is just kind of rounding out the roster with a transfer maybe every couple of years, and not chasing as many of those guys. So we'll see. This is another roster that is pretty transfer heavy, but you do have obviously the star coming in, and Darren Peterson that helps. He's not really homegrown. He'll be one and done, I'm sure. But like Flory's got to be a hit this year. That's got to be a guy that's good for them to be a really, really, really good basketball team. And that's a guy that spent a year in your program, and just, sophomore year, usually it clicks. So we'll see. Marco Jackson, is he going to progress? And then maybe it's like the portal is used to just kind of complement those guys. And I think that's kind of what the vision is here. You've got the two high school recruits in Flory. Now he's a sophomore, but was initially a high school recruit. You've got Darren. You've got Cole Rosario, who I think they identified as they got him really late, but I think can be a really, really good player for them right away. Another high school recruit. Like, you hope those guys are pros, right? Like the high school guys you're identifying, they're the pros. And then maybe you come in with the transfer portal guys who can kind of be the glue guys. And that's what I think they kind of went for in the portal this time, is guys maybe that are better athletes, can guard, give you some speed. Like last year, they didn't have anybody that could break you down off the dribble and touch paint and just do it on their own, right? Bill Self always talked about gotta get downhill. Like nobody was getting downhill for them last year. So I do think they were more intentional in how they built this. We'll see how it works. Obviously, Darren's got to really hit like you think he can hit. Flory's got to be really good, and then there's a couple other guys have to be KU level guys for them to get back to normal.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Darren Peterson, because he's very clearly, kind of like the guy that we were talking about as far as being that lottery level, player who's going to be able to come in, plug and play. I think, the most obvious, answer to that is probably somebody like Andrew Wiggins, where you had this foundation of a good team around, and you can insert a guy who can just sort of step in. And what sort of player is Peterson, and what's the type of role that they're sort of envisioning for him? Because I imagine he's going to be asked to do a lot as a freshman.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to get too hyperbolic, but it's kind of hard when you talk about these super hyped guys, and I've only seen him live one time. I went to their last summer practice that they scrimmaged that day. I never saw him on the circuit. Did you have a chance to see him on the circuit at all?
I've only seen him on video. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd only seen him on video. Um, Seeing it in person, I was like, I was obviously higher on Kansas after that day. Like, he's really freaking good. He is, Bill will tell you that, like, he's the most prepared freshman he's ever had to come in and be an impact guy right away. And I think that's true. Like, I think he's going to be a better college player than Andrew Wiggins. Um, I think obviously Joel Embiid's turned into an awesome, awesome player, but he was good as a freshman, but not like elite, elite. I think Darren Peterson could be all-American good this year, and it wouldn't surprise me. Like, the watching him that day, it almost felt like he was an upperclassman. Like, he'd been around for a few years and had that maturity to his game.
He's kind of built like one. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you could easily mistake him when you see him on the floor for a guy who's 2 or 3 years older than he is.
For sure. Great size for a guard. Really, really good feel. Really sees it. Can score. I want to see more defensively because I just got to see that one day, and it's kind of hard to really evaluate somebody defensively in one day, right? But offensively, I mean, you could freaking see it. And the what scouts have said that defensively is not like that's a hole or anything. So I think he has a chance to be really, really good, and they're going to put the ball in his hands a lot. They've got a couple other. I mean, they don't really have a true point guard. They got combos. He's one of them. I think the ball is going to be in his hands. Bill's best teams always have two kind of combo or 2 point guards out there. He'll have that all the time. I think it'll either be the combination of Darren Peterson, El Marco, and Melvin Council. 2 of those 3 guys will be on the floor at all times. And those are all 3 guys with pretty good speed, should be able to get downhill. I think they'll play faster than they've played the last few years. They're not very big up front. I think they're going to play fairly small with like Trey White will probably start at the 4, and they'll have some. They can have some big lineups. They've got the big French kid that's coming in. I see him potentially playing him and Flory together a little bit, but I think more often than not they'll probably be playing small and trying to get up and down the floor and put some shooting around Darren Peterson and that other guard and roll a bunch with Flory or whoever's in there at the 5 and kind of play similar to how they played when KJ was at the 5 the last time they were a 1 seed, when they had 3 big wings out there with DeJuan Harris, 3 NBA level wings, and a lot of ball screens with KJ and didn't really post up a ton and played that way. And I think you'll see that more this year. They'll still post up some in special situations maybe, but Flory's just not a guy that you're going to throw the ball down into the post and hope he can score with his back to the basket.
Yeah, I imagine he's a guy that you are going to be pretty comfortable, running a middle ball screen with, and having him plunge towards the rim as a bit of a trailer in that action, with 2 guys attacking the rim. So if Peterson is, let's just say, like, he's quality, but he's not All-American. He's second, third team All Big 12 level. What's that do to the ceiling on this team versus if he turns into like a top 5 level player in the country?
It lowers it significantly. Like, if he's just second or third team Big 12, they're probably somewhere in the 20 to 25 range of the top 25, and that's if some of the other guys hit, right? That, or maybe Flores has a really, really good season and is like all Big 12 level. I think there's potential for them to be a top 10 team, but for that to happen, like, he's got to be one of the best, probably 5 players in the sport. And I do think just from watching him that one day, and it was one day, he's like the best freshman because I have seen Boozer, I have seen AJ DeBounce, I've seen some of the best guys on like the Nike circuit. What I saw from him was better than those guys like Boozer's going to be a really, really good college player. His like NBA potential, I'm not sure about, but he's going to be a really super, super good college player. But I think Peterson's like a better talent than he is, and has a chance to be a top 5 level player in the sport. And that's what they need to be like back in the top 10 this year.
Yeah, and I think that to me is sort of where I'm at. I think if Peterson shows up and he's like contending to be the top overall pick in the NBA draft, like I think this is a team that's going to contend for a Final Four, possibly in a national championship with a player like that on the roster. Absent that, I think they'll be better than they've been the last couple of years. Just on and I think Kansas's issues the last couple of years have been more of a consistency thing. When they played really well, they've been able to contend with teams at the top of the sport, but they don't often play well. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of Bill Self teams is they usually are playing very well, and it's rare to kind of catch them on those down days. And I think there's been way too many of those down days. At least for Kansas fan, for Missouri fan, it's been great. So let's talk a little bit about this matchup and sort of how we see, because I did watch you went on the Ion College Basketball podcast and talked to Matt Norlander about sort of Kansas season. In that bit, you were sort of asked for a record, and you did pick Kansas to beat Missouri. The game is at the Sprint Center. It is not on campus for the first time. Little bit sad about that. I like the games on campus better.
100%.
Yeah, but I do also enjoy the bragging rights game, and that's a neutral site. So that's maybe being right on the border of the two schools. It'll hopefully not too many fights will happen in the stands, but the matchup itself. You and I exchanged a couple emails earlier. Basically talking about sort of where we see Missouri. A lot of anybody watching this probably knows how I feel about them. I think they're probably going to be a little better than most people are predicting. You sent me your sort of expectations, and they were really pretty close to what I think. Just sort of like towards the bottom end of like what you would consider like the top half of the of the league, not in contender tier, but right behind that. And again, you and I exchanged emails on it, so I know the answers to some of these questions. I'm going to ask them anyway. What do you think is the one thing that's going to hold back this Missouri team, if there's one thing that's holding them back?
Yeah, it's shooting. Shooting is probably my biggest concern for them, because Caleb Grill and Tamar Bates were so important for that team last year. Like, when Caleb Grill was hitting shots and flying off screens, and it was fun, Caleb Grill, like they could beat just about anybody. And if both those guys,
national championships on their national champions on their own floor,
on their home floor,
a lot of that was Caleb kind of going crazy.
He was unreal that day, and I kind of went back through and like all their SEC games and how those two did together, and their worst performances were when those two just didn't show up. And it was rare that both of them wouldn't show up. Usually you get something out of one of the two. And, we know like Mark Mitchell, they'll tell you that he's worked on his shot a lot, and he'll be able to shoot some threes this year, make some threes. And like, I hope that's true, and it'd be awesome for him. But like, I'm sure you're in the same spot. Like, I want to see that happen.
Yeah. I've seen him shoot before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've seen.
I know they've been working on it, but once you get in the games, it's a different deal. So like we'll see on that. And Ant Robinson's a really, really good college player, and I expect him to take like another jump this year. And I've liked him since the time I saw him when he was on the grassroots EYBL circuit. Like I was like, oh, Mizzou got something here, and I think he'll continue to progress, and like he have an even better year. But like that's not really him, even though he shot 40% from three last year. It was on really low attempts. But maybe he gives you a little bit more perimeter pop. So like, where is that perimeter scoring going to come from? I also like, I put my little thing I sent you today. Like I like Sebastian Mack, another guy I liked on the EYBL circuit. but not a shooter, a guy that can kind of play that. What's my guy from who was at Iowa's role?
Tony
His name's
Perkins.
on Tony
Yeah.
Perkins. I think he kind of fits in that Tony Perkins role, but is kind of your put pressure on the rim guy. But he's not a guy that's going to shoot it a ton either. So like, if I'm playing Missouri, I'm thinking like I'm just going to put guys in the back in the paint, try to slow them down, not let them get in transition, and prove that they can make shots.
Yeah.
So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. I do think they upgraded at the 5 spot. I know talking to their coaches, they've been pretty excited about the guy they got from Arizona State, Sean Phillips Jr. And Arizona State does have a reputation like their 5s will go somewhere else and they will look better. So that is a thing that I'm thinking of, like the guy that was at Texas Tech a couple of years ago, Grant's first team, who he went to Tech, and Warren, something Warren.
Yeah.
He went to Tech and like he looked better. So kind of similar players. Like he's a good their 5 last year was they weren't awesome at that spot. They didn't have a lot of foot speed at that spot when they would actually go to the traditional 5. So you pointed out, like, a lot of times they would start, they did start Mark at the 5 and played it like a little smaller, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tried it, especially if they think Mark can shoot a little bit, throw him at the 4 and actually have more of a tradition. Because there's going to be some SEC teams that are super, super big. And I feel like the sport is trending towards a more like bigger lineups. So, when they do go big, 25 minutes a game or whatever, I do think they're better at that spot. Porter's another guy, like I want to see it at this level before I believe it. I know they're excited about who's their big boy freshman that sat last year.
Trent Burns.
I saw him at practice.
He is currently out after having surgery to repair a stress fracture in his foot. So,
okay.
So he's going to miss at least the start of the year. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But
I wrote about that too. It's just like, it's one of those things where it's like a 7'5" guy with like foot problems is, look, I hope the best. Like everything we've heard is he could be a real difference maker at that end, or really on both ends of the floor. But,
can shoot it. It's got some stuff to him, but
if you can't stay healthy, like you can't help on the floor.
Yeah, but you hope that's just some bad injury luck, and he'll be back and he'll be fine.
Right.
He is the Florida State model, right? Like, get a gigantor dude, and just flood the floor with length, and try to have really low shooting percentage for your opponent. So we'll see. I'm at least intrigued with what they have at the 5. Jaden Stone, I don't know. I haven't watched any tape on him. I'll be honest, but put up big numbers at a really, really bad program. My dog disagrees.
Your dog is also skeptical of Jaden Stone's translation.
She's skeptical. Like, we'll see, but like one of those guys has to be able to come in and hit shots. Who's our guy last year that came off the bench?
Jake Cruz.
Jake Cruz. He had his moments last year. You brought up his defense. Can he be a guy that plays 20, 25 minutes a game? He might have to give them more shooting. His shooting percentages his 3-point percentage wasn't around 34 or something. But he is a guy that you could I could conceivably see shoot like 38. He could be maybe your Caleb Grill role.
Yeah, I want to say like the last half of conference play, he was right about 40% from 3. So it was one of those things. I think it took him a while to kind of get going, but I think they're hoping that was more like the translation phase, and now he's translated. That's the hope.
Sure. That's possible.
Yeah.
So like you hope he plays the Caleb Grill role, and one other guard can come in and maybe be a little better than expectations, or Ant just takes a huge jump, or Mac and Ant are really, really good. Like, I can see this being a top 25 level team. I'm probably have them in my head like more like 25 to 30 range right now, just on the outside looking in. Are you about the same place, or are you a little higher?
Probably a little higher. Mainly 'cause, like, I do think the SEC is going to be really good again, really deep again. I don't think we're going to see anything like we saw last year. I just,
I agree.
there's been too much of an exit of talent from college basketball in general.
Hmm.
I do think I have all the same questions on the shooting. I have all the same sort of concerns as far as like where the rotation is going to go. I tend to look at a couple things, and that's Dennis Gates has been really good with multi-year players and turning those multi-year players into really high-quality rotational guys at a minimum. We
Hmm.
saw that with Trent Pierce. We saw that with Ant Robinson. We've seen with Tamar Bates, Caleb Grill both had really big years. Their second year in the program.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you could see another jump for Mark Mitchell, maybe as more of a playmaker, but also the potential for Tio Barrett, who I think a lot of people are really high on as far as his ability to
Hmm.
defend and make plays, and Honor Boateng, who was a talented freshman who didn't really see a lot of time, but he was also playing behind Tamar Bates and Caleb Grill. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I think the multi-year thing for me is a big thing. I'm hoping that they're going to be able to kind of get Sebastian Mack into that, because I think Sebastian Mack's a guy who needs a lot of cleanup with his footwork. As far as like getting ready for shots, he's great at driving and attacking the rim. But I think from for, I really prioritize returning production and guys who are familiar with your program, maybe more so than a lot of prognosticators are these days. And I
Hmm.
think that that's one thing that I think can help them to sort of be maybe not a consistent top 15 level team, but up to 15. I don't know that I see them as like a Final Four or Elite Eight level kind of contender, but I think with if if the right mix, if Javon Porter turns into a solid defender, if Honor Boateng becomes something that they can rely on from the wing, I think this is a team that could see the second weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there are probably like 18 to 19 like really 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 good rosters this year,
Uh-huh.
and then there's probably like that 19 to 40 is like it's dealer's choice.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll probably do a couple crazy things with my preseason top 25 just to be a
Yeah.
little wild. But my latest rough sketch has the Tigers just outside of it. But I could see I'll watch them early and I could have them in there the first or second week. So we'll see. But I as I think more about it, I thought Caleb and Tamar were really, really important for them, and I just kind of want to see what it looks like without those two out there.
Well, yeah, and also, if Dennis Gates can, get one of his teams to sort of provide a consistent defensive effort over, more than just a few
Yeah,
game stretch, I think is another thing that,
for sure.
that I would like to see, Missouri fans would like to see. I think at times they lose focus on that end of the floor. Not everybody can be Ant Robinson and just blessed to be a great on-ball defender. Some people have to work at it. Sprint Center, the game is going to happen. How do you see this kind of playing out? Do you think Missouri? If Missouri wins, what happens?
Oh, when is the game even? What's the date?
It's early December. I want to say it's like the
It's early December.
the 8th or something like that.
Yeah. I'll be there, I'm sure, unless something terrible happens.
It's a short drive for you, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's 20 minutes. Um, I think
The
Missouri
7th. It was close.
the 7th. There you go.
Yeah.
Is it Saturday?
It is a Sunday.
Sunday. Interesting. I don't like
The
that.
Storage Mart Border Showdown, in case you were wondering.
It's the border war. Let's not disrespect it by calling it a border showdown.
Right.
And get this church, who was that? Who's the
Storage
sponsor?
Mart. Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I hope they get some NIL money out of that for both teams. But all right, Missouri wins if they shoot. They come out, they shoot the ball pretty well. I think kind of like last year, like their pressure rattles Kansas a little bit. and they're able to get some steals and get in transition. I do think a set Kansas defense is going to be a lot better this year than it was last year. So a game that's kind of up and down. Missouri will want not to have to face like that set defense a ton. And, if one of these guys that we're talking about steps up and starts making shots, like, I don't think these two teams are super far apart. Now, if Darren Peterson is the elite player that I think he'll be, then I do think Kansas just has another gear probably. And, in a game where it's kind of neutral, you would think maybe slightly favored Kansas as the crowd goes. I'd say probably, I don't know, who is the technical home team?
I don't know that there's one listed.
There's not one listed.
Yeah, I just pulled up Missouri's online schedule.
Because I'm wondering how the tickets distribution go.
Yeah, I wonder. It might be because I think what's happening is they are going to play at Sprint Center again next year, because this is the year that I think the game got canceled for the COVID year, and they just tacked it on the end, and so they had to go Sprint Center back to back. So it might have been Missouri and then Kansas and then Missouri and then Kansas. So this is, if they were just at Mizzou last year, I'm guessing it was probably Kansas will be the home team and then Missouri will.
Yeah,
be
that's
home
what
next
I was.
year.
That's what I was kind of thinking. So maybe KU gets a little bit more tickets. Maybe it's like 60-40 or something like that. But it'll mostly be a neutral 4 game. So I will, as you said, I'm already on the record of picking Kansas. I'm not gonna go against that just to make the audience happier, because I know the audience would prefer.
So what's the easiest bet? You think it's just Darren Peterson showing up and being Darren Peterson, and the defense being solid enough to kind of give Missouri fits that they're able to kind of keep it at arm's length and win the game?
Yeah, I think they have enough ball handlers that, like, Missouri's changing up of defenses, Missouri's pressure won't bug them as much as it did last year. They've got a better level of athlete than they had a year ago, which I think Missouri's athleticism kind of overwhelmed them, especially early in that game. You've got an angry Bill Self having lost to Mizzou last year. Usually that works out pretty well for Kansas. So I think KU will win, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Missouri comes into KC and wins the game. So
yeah, if I had to guess, I'd probably guess it's probably going to be like a 4.5 to 5 point spread. Just based upon like where both teams are in early predictions. I think Evan Mia just dropped his team ratings. He has Kansas at 17, and I think Missouri is at like 31. So yeah, that's probably going to be like at most a 4 to 5 point neutral court difference. Be my guess. Well, anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here? Any swipes you want to take at the Tigers? Any praise you want to?
No swipes.
Well,
The biggest things I'm interested in are, I want to see what Burns looks like. Like, hopefully he gets healthy, and I want to see what do they have there. Because he's super interesting. Like, you don't see a lot of 7'5" guys walking around that can shoot threes. So I want to see what he is. I want to see the jump that Ant makes. I want to see what Sebastian Mack looks like in a Mizzou uniform. Like, Mick Cronin can be a hard guy to play for. That could really work out for them.
And not known for his offensive scheming.
No. I liked that swing as far as the portal goes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was a smart grab. So I don't know. Like, I kind of hate the preseason in a way where we like come up with all these big, like, oh, this team's going to be this team's going to be this. Like, I'm excited for the first couple of weeks of the season to actually, like, then we can really start judging this, right? Like, I'm not one that's like going to just hold on to, here's how I felt in the preseason, so I can't change my stance. So, and it's the amount of, I'm working on a story right now. They'll have sometime in the preseason. Like, I've gone through and I'm through Big 12, SEC, and Big 10. I haven't done Big East or ACC yet, but I've been projecting the starting lineups of like every team in those high major leagues. and it's something like 70% or so of starters who, and, a lot of times I have pretty educated guesses on these things. It's like around 70% or something like that of starters will be new players to those rosters this year. Like the turnover in college basketball is just, the roster turnover's insane. And like when you go through and you start listing everybody out, like it's just crazy. So like I am curious, and I want to talk to Ken and Evan and Torvik like about this. I hope to at some point. Like, is it harder to predict things now than it ever has been? Like I'm curious, the last couple of years, have their preseason metrics performed worse than they used to perform just because there are so many unknowns and so many like, how's this all going to fit together? So that, you made a good point earlier that you bet more on roster continuity, that type of thing. And that is one thing Mizzou has going for it, is while it might feel like there's a lot of newness to this group, they got a lot more returning than most. So that's a reason to be high on the Tigers for sure.
Yeah, basically 3 starters, and I don't think anybody else in the SEC, has more than 2. So,
and I almost wrote 3 starters today, but like, are we really going to call Trent Pierce a starter last year?
Yeah, like
he started the games, but like, was he a starter? So like, I had that at first and I just deleted it because I was like, come on, like Caleb Grill was the starter. So anyway.
Yeah, I think and that's the sort of thing with Trent. Trent's a guy who sort of struggled with his confidence, and when Trent was playing well, and people always want to talk about like when Missouri was at their best and last year, and I thought when Missouri was at their best was when Ant and Trent were playing really well, because it's like you were saying, they were always going to get something from Tamar or Caleb. But when those guys were coming, what it does, I think this is also the thing that so many coaches are doing, the risk adverse transfer portal pickup and not going with the higher upside freshman. Like you were saying, LeBaron Philon, what you're doing is you're raising your floor maybe, but you're lowering your ceiling. And Missouri's ceiling was at its highest when Ant and Trent were playing well, and they were not running out Marquez Warwick, and they were not running out Jacob Cruz. They're getting the shooting and the rim attacks and the the defense from those guys, and relying less on like your lower ceiling transfers. And so I think like I don't want to say blanket coaches have looked past this, because I think that there's coaches that realize it, but they're also they're on multi-million-dollar contracts, and they're just trying to get to 20 wins in the NCAA tournament. So it's just like I feel like I'm more likely to get there with this this Green Bay transfer, than a top 75 recruit, and it's just like okay,
and let me clarify, like I'm not talking trash on Trent Peterson.
No.
I just don't think you can call a guy that played 40% of his team's minutes a returning starter.
Because there was a large stretch of games where he would he would start the game, and then like you'd look up and he played he'd play 5 minutes. You're like, because he went out and he stunk. So we're like, well, we gave you a shot. We're gonna go with Warwick. So. CJ, I know this went longer than I intended, but I always enjoy talking to you. I'm so thrilled that this rivalry is back. Also, glad that we get to consistently talk about Kansas and Missouri when it comes to playing games. Make sure, if you're not already aware of where this man puts his words, that you have a subscription to The Athletic. One of the best college basketball writers out there, CJ. We always look forward to what you write. Are you still doing the Twitter thing, Blue Sky thing? Where can people, read your intermittent thoughts?
I don't do them a ton, but I'm on this. I am CJ Moore Hoops at both spots. So it's easy. CJ Moore Hoops.
All right. Yeah. Go give him a follow. Make sure you're subscribed to The Athletic. CJ, thanks so much for your time. And we'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, Sam. Thanks for having me.
And I'd like to say thanks again to CJ Moore for coming on the podcast, talking Tigers, talking Jayhawks, talking Border War. It was a great conversation. If you are looking for a way to find CJ's work, you just go to theathletic.com, get subscribed. If you're already subscribed, just go to the college basketball section, and his stuff is all over the place. So he is, without a doubt, one of the best college basketball writers going these days. He does write a lot about the Jayhawks, so if you want to find out what's going on with our rivals, then that's probably the best way, is just follow CJ. Again, CJ More Hoops on Twitter and Blue Sky. Give him a follow, and then we will be back we've got some more interviews lined up. So thank you for CJ for hopping on, and we'll see you very shortly. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.